Hi, everybody. Welcome back for another episode of the Awaken Way podcast. I'm so excited to introduce to you, if you don't already know her, my friend, the beautiful, intuitive author, master numerologist, ordained unity minister, Reverend Sue Frederick. Sue, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Suzanne. It's just been such an honor to connect with you. You're such a gorgeous soul.
Well, hopefully, we'll just radiate enough light here that everybody will just feel what's inside them reflected back at them today. I want to tell you all that I didn't know much about numerology. I knew that if you added certain numbers up and reduce them down to another number, like 11 is a master number and 1 is a master number. I've dabbled in it, but Sue, you're an expert in this. I'm diving right into numerology. I want to get to your backstory later, but I want to intrigue people to stick around. Master numerologist, what is that?
Yeah. Well, many people know. In fact, I'd say most of our world understands now that numbers have a meaning beyond quantity, that they carry a special vibration. I mean, you can't go on social media without seeing people posting about angel numbers. But I was gifted with this, not this way of understanding our soul's journey when my husband died in 1980 because I was angry at the world and I was angry that he had suffered so much and he was so young and beautiful and sweet and loving, and why do good people suffer and why am I still here? All of those hard questions that come with grief. And I'd seen therapists and a hospice therapist and on, and nothing. As one of my favorite dads said from helping fathers heal, he said, every question I ask, I've been outraged by the answer. So that's how I felt. I felt like whatever I asked these helpers about why this had all happened, nobody could help me understand it. And I'm a Virgo, I need to understand things. So finally, I had a session with a numerologist, and Suzanne, in 1 hour, she sat down. All she had was my date of birth, Paul's date of birth, and she sat down and explained what I had agreed to in my soul plan, what Paul had agreed to, what our soul agreement was together, why I was still here, and where I was in my reinvention points, our personal years. And that changed everything. I became like, oh, this really resonates as true. It's the first answer that doesn't outrage me.
Oh, wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you felt it in your heart, no
I
doubt.
felt it totally in my heart. And I became obsessed with learning more. And it was 1980. There was no internet, there
Oh,
was nobody
wow, wow.
teaching numerology around. So I've got the one book I could find in the Boulder bookstore. And I started just doing everybody's path. And I still have this notebook. It's about this thick, where I would meet somebody and I'd say, "Oh, tell me your date of birth." And I would figure it out and I'd go, "Huh, how did this birth path unfold in your life, you know?" And I would just start doing that like a researcher. And I gathered just hundreds of people, all just on my own desire to learn and understand it. And I would always kid I was single, and grieving. And if anybody asked me out to dinner, I'd say, "Well, not unless you give me your date of birth
Oh,
first."
no.
So that kind of kept me in a certain single situation for a long time.
Oh, goodness. Now, so clearly this is part of soul planning to come in on certain dates. I mean, the two
But
just work together. People want to know, did my soul really sign up for this? But
right.
this validates it.
Yeah. And the hard question that people have with numerology, which I love when they ask, is they say, "Oh, so are you trying to tell me that everybody born on my exact date of birth has the same soul mission as me?"
Oh,
And
okay.
that's a really good question. And the
Yeah.
answer that I have found about it is that no, think of it this way. We're all in the higher realms and immersed in God's unconditional love and wisdom, and we decide we want to incarnate, take a human life in the earth world for purposes of evolution and helping others from what we
Mhm.
learn. And so, for example, I said to my soul guide, I said, I've got to learn some inner strength, some outer strength, and I want to do something that really makes a difference there. And they said, oh, bingo, the 22-4 path is just what you need. And
Oh, wow. It's
so
that
that's
precise.
it's
Yeah.
that precise. And so it's like taking a college class or a college major, where you say, here's what I want to emphasize and here's what I want to learn and master. And that's the vibration of the path you come in on, but then you bring your own higher soul with you and everything you've already learned and gathered. So each of us is on the path with our unique essence and consciousness driving it. So my 22-4 path is quite different from, for example, Oprah is a 22-4,
Huh.
and she's doing her work her way. And there are many other very powerful people in the world doing 22-4 missions. And what I love by looking at them is I go, oh, look how different they all are. But the intention is to create content and work that really helps shift consciousness. And we each have our own expression like that, and it's reflected through the numbers.
And what just occurred to me there is I remember, I believe I heard it from Wayne Dyer that the number one question people ask of spiritual teachers and intuitives is, what is my purpose? And usually we try to discern that ourselves, but you could actually figure that out for people.
Well, that was my first, I guess it was really my first entry of coming out of the closet as a numerologist and an intuitive. I had been a health writer. After Paul died, I wanted to make a difference, and the only way I knew how to do that was I was a writer. So I wrote articles about preventing disease, and I became quite successful at that. But when my soul was ready to move to the next, I hit one of those 9 reinvention year personal years. I started doing this work, but also focusing it on purpose and career, because every person I talked to, no matter where they were in their journey, would say, but what am I here to do? And
Yeah.
I'd say, well, the numbers can help you see that. And people would go, wow. And so my first book, I See Your Dream Job, was
Yeah.
about connecting numbers with career.
Yeah, you had some pretty high vis articles and media
Yeah,
exposure because you were so good at helping people find their dream job, what's
that was
just
so
right for them.
fun. That
Yeah.
was so fun, Suzanne, because, people would say, well, everybody tells me that I have these talents and gifts, but the numbers help me understand how to put it together. And I had so much fun helping people with that, and I was so blessed because it happened to hit the mainstream media at a time when everybody was looking for their work, because it had been a downtime in the economy. I think it was like 2008 when that book came out, and a lot of people were unemployed, and so they
Mm.
were like, just really help me numbers. And I was like, yes, they can help you.
But tell us how you've taken it beyond finding your dream job now, because you do numerology readings for people. Do you
For
call them that, or
everyone.
you call them intuitive sessions, or?
Well, I used to call it intuitive intuitive numerology or intuitive coaching, but what it really is even when I was doing dream job, I would dream the night before where someone's husband would be standing right beside me in the bed by my bedroom and wake me up, and he would have a message for me. And so that morning I'd go to do my client, and she'd say, yeah, my husband crossed a few months ago. And I'd be going, oh, wait, here's what he had to say. And
Yeah,
so it
yeah, yeah.
started blending, all of this stuff. And grief has always been my pain story. And so I really wanted to help grieving people. And I've often said that, grief is our greatest spiritual teacher because it makes us ask all the hard questions. And once we start asking them, we start finding the answers that resonate. So when a grieving person would come to me and say, I'm broke, I'm lost, I don't have a career anymore, my husband died or my child died, I would just feel so inspired to help them and use the numbers and intuition and automatic writing and dreams. And it was like diving into heaven to be able to bring this work to people. It takes us out of the earth world, Suzanne, and really
Yeah.
brings us our soul's view of why we're traveling in this painful realm that we call Earth.
Well, I just love that I was guided to ask you for a session before we talked today because I really wanted to personally experience what it is you do. And it is so different from any reading I've ever had from any other intuitive and so informative, so helpful. And what I loved about it, various aspects I want to share with people because we can all benefit from that experience is that it was two faceted, at least. The first part was purely you looked at my numbers, but you also tuned in well before our session. You took the time. It was clear you did your homework, you had notes, and then you shared it with me, but tuning in at the same time. This nonstop flow of this is what the numbers say, but I also sense. And then you shifted gears and took us on a journey, a meditative journey, both of us going into this beautiful expanded state. And you guided me to different locations and then connected with my own loved ones across the veil. How did that
That
process, that
combination.
way, yeah, how did that come about?
Well, spirit always guides us, right? And, I've been meditating every day since Paul died. I learned how to meditate then, and that kind of always informed my work. And when you talk about how I would meditate before the session, that's because I'm shy and I don't want to sit there in front of people meditating and automatic writing on what I'm getting for them. So I would do it before the session. And then when the session started, I would share what I already had for them. And then they would want to learn to meditate. And then eventually that led to me going, okay, well, let me take you into a meditation. And then, so that's where that would head. But then when I became a soul regression therapist, that also added another layer where I really understood how to navigate people while they're wide awake into stepping into the heavenly realms and getting the guidance that their earth mind is maybe resisting or won't allow it to seep into them, especially with grieving moms. When I'm able to, first we talk about their numbers in a very kind of logical way. Here was your soul agreement with your child. And
Mhm.
then we go into heaven and their child is there with so much love and happiness and they're whole and healthy and aligned with their higher soul. And the mom says, often they'll go, I could feel him or I could kiss his hair. I could smell him. It's because we're going to those higher realms instead of asking spirit to try to lower their frequency enough to come down here. And, mediums like you are so great because, of course, you can navigate that. But I found that for me, helping a client lift into that world gives them so much clarity and connection with their departed.
And the personal experience of their presence, right?
Right.
Sue, I find it so interesting. You state outright, I am not a medium, but you are. I mean, you are connecting and
I am
communicating.
not like you, Suzanne. I can't
Yeah.
just sit there and go, "Hey, spirit, what do you have to tell me?" and just see things. I just
Okay.
I don't get the gift like that. But if I'm automatic writing and just sort of connecting with numbers, just a knowingness will come. But it's not going to be, the way you work and the way
Yeah.
my favorite mediums work. There's all this very evidential stuff.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't stick in my head. I'm just not designed for it. Instead, I get the soul message from them. Like, here's what your mother says now through the soul's truth. And that's how it comes in. So they
I,
first need to go see you, and then they can come see me.
I feel that what's going on here is just splitting hairs and terminology. We're connecting with those who have passed. We're both in our own ways
Mhm.
showing people that the two worlds are really one
Yeah.
and also giving people the personal experience of knowing their loved ones are right here. So it's all beautiful.
Except that, you have the gift, Suzanne, for being able to take someone who's never believed in anything like this, and you can give them so much irrefutable evidence that they walk away mind blown. My story is that when Paul died, he was already showing me everything and in bed with me that night and talking to me. And so my question never was, is he still around or where is he? I saw him, felt him, heard him. My
Wow.
question was, how do I put this all together and still be here on earth and have a meaningful life? So
Mm.
my work kind of comes after, like everybody needs to go see you to make sure that they believe. And then they come to see me to find out, okay, now what do I do?
And what was this all about? And yeah.
Right.
Wow, it's awesome. That's what I love about spirit and how we all manifest as spirit, that no one person has it all. And so we're all these beautiful facets of the one light. I had just brought up my little disco ball model today earlier with the many different ways that spirit expresses through us. So
Yeah.
it's perfect that we go to this person for that and that person and we turn within for this and that.
Yeah.
So I have to brag on you and tell people how this can be helpful. That this is the first time I'm publicly stating that my husband and I have made a very spontaneous decision, and we're moving from South Carolina to near you in
And you're
Arizona.
going to be my neighbor.
Practically, if you,
Yes.
maybe an hour and a half away or so. But
Right.
um, I was there in the area where we're moving to just a couple weeks ago, and it was this feeling, this is it. I'm supposed to be here. It was this knowing, like when I first met my husband, I'm supposed to marry this man. And I couldn't describe it, but here we are. And we just we got the house, this house sold, it's everything's fallen into place so beautifully. But here's the point to bring you back into the discussion. I didn't know why. I was totally trusting spirit, and to make a move like this to other people would seem crazy. But my husband's used to me. He's up for a new adventure, so we're packing up the house as I speak. But I just had your reading, and I see the divine timing even in that reading. Because without you knowing what was going on in my life at all, everybody ready for this? She said, Suzanne, you're at the end of a 9-year cycle. You're letting go of things. I'm literally letting go of belongings and everything. And you're starting a whole new cycle. January is a fresh start for who knows what, but a fresh start. And I just said, this is it. And I can see that there are changes spiritually happening with me. I'm sorry, I'm doing a lot of the talking. We'll get back to you, but it's
Oh,
to
no, this is all
validate.
important. This
It,
is all very important.
yeah, validates what, and I want to talk about cycles with people. But most people tuning in will know about my workshop I just did, and that I've been through a very painful, literally painful period that has brought me to a new level. And
That's the
that
magic of the nine.
Yeah, the 9. So the 9 means letting go the end of a cycle. So we're leaving this house in December, January, brand new start in a new place. I didn't know why, but now I see. I kept saying to Ty, this is destiny, but I don't know why. And yesterday you validated all that for me.
It's so great. I mean, the numbers, this is why I love the numbers so much because you can't make this stuff up. When I have a client come to me and I see they're in a 9-year, sometimes they're also in a Saturn return, I'm like, oh yeah, I know what's going on here. And when people are very cynical about numerology, one of the things I'll focus on with them is, well, let's review your 9-year cycles in your life. And that just blows them out of the water because suddenly they're not saying, oh, I really messed up because I got fired from that job in my 9-year. Instead, what they're seeing is that every time they hit a preordained 9-year reinvention point, they had to shed what they were ready to let go of, even if the conscious mind wasn't ready to let go of it, what the soul was ready for them to let go of in order to step up to the next level of their life and work. This is so enlightening for people because people want to blame themselves for things and say, oh, I must have done something wrong or I messed that up. And I just go, no, rewrite. You have been following your reinvention points perfectly in this journey. And now you're just ready for the new and next.
That is a point I've never heard made before. And I know that certain things are destiny, but you literally showed it to me yesterday. When I went back and you showed me the year, what happened in this year? And I said, well,
Right.
that's when my first marriage started failing. And you showed, I know I was meant to meet Ty and Susan, who
Mhm.
passed, is part of my path because now I'm
Yes.
doing what I
It's
do.
and you know, the numbers help us remember that we planned all this as a soul, not as a human mind, but as a soul. We said, the only reason I'm going to incarnate on earth is because I really want to evolve and expand my consciousness so that I can be one of the helpers. I can be one of the healers. And so we sign up for this hard journey through the earth world. And then we get down here and we're like, oh, this is terrible. It hurts. But the minute we look at the numbers, we remember, oh, yes, I really wanted to succeed at this mission. So now I'm ready to kind of step up and try again.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And so what's cool is you have on your website a little number generator that you can see what your path is. Now, I did mine and I after the session
Yeah.
with you, and it really didn't mean anything, the numbers I came up with, but you have a book, a
Yeah, I have a
workbook.
numerology workbook and it's very simple. I like things to be simple and easy to understand. So my numerology workbook is thin, but it has everything you need to understand what to do with the numbers that you get from my free soul path calculator because I want everybody to be looking at their life this way. It helps us understand our challenges and our gifts, you know. I mean, Suzanne, every time I love studying human life because I can say, oh, wow, look at that big political figure. They're on such and such a path. No wonder they're behaving this way, you know,
Wow.
or it just
Wow.
brings a whole different soul perspective to everything. And I had a friend tell me, you know, she said, you just won't look at everything just from the human view. And I said, well, the numbers give us such a more exalted understanding of it. Why wouldn't we all want to look at it that way? You know?
Oh, yeah. I just made a note. I have to get that workbook because you just showed me not only is it good for ourselves, but to understand that's why my partner is that way. They can't help
Right.
it, right?
Right.
And then with that understanding, more compassion, more patience, which we can have when we take the soul's perspective anyway.
Yes.
But the numbers
But
add
the
another
numbers
element.
add, oh, it's so fun. I mean, even with my girlfriends, you know, just we'll be sitting around and somebody will say something and I'll go, oh, spoken like a true one path soul, you know, and we'll all laugh, you know.
It sounds a lot like astrology, though. Are you versed in astrology, and what's the
Yeah.
difference?
So I mix just using astrology is so complex, and actually so is numerology when you dig into it. But I knew that my task here was not to bring complicated soul information. I'm just not that person. I'm the one to say, hey, it's easier than you think. Let's just take your soul, which is how you wanted to express your journey here. I'm a Virgo, so I got to understand and analyze and dig into things and then I'm a 22, so I've got to work hard to bring a higher consciousness. And so when we just combine the birth path and the sun sign, I kind of invented that combination decades ago. And I would say, feeling into the fact that I'm a Virgo 22 and somebody else might be a Pisces 22, we get a very different feeling of how they'll bring their energy and their work and their gifts. So, for example, you're the powerful Leo soul that brings so much power and light and sunshine to the world, and you have the eight number, which means together you're the powerhouse to be, no one can outshine you. But if we looked at somebody like a Pisces 8, they would bring a totally different energy to the same journey of learning and gifts.
So, a real nitty gritty question here. You say you're a 22. People might be confused. You've taken your birth date and added the numbers, but I
Yeah.
know in numerology you reduce things. So, why don't you add the two and the two and become a four?
I'm glad you asked that. Yes, so there are these three master numbers, the 11, the 22, and the 33 that really inform our journeys here. And so when our final digit, and I explain all this in my workbook too, and then when you go to my soul path calculator, it will add your birth date the three different ways. And this
Mm.
is a different way. If you go look at mainstream numerology, they're only going to be adding it one way. Well,
Oh,
what I figured out pretty quick was in order to really understand the vibration of your past, you've got to add it all three ways. And if one of those ways ends up with an 11, a 22, or a 33 in front of the final single digit, it means your soul chose this intense path of master soul growth. It's not master soul because we're more evolved than anyone. It's because we were more determined to really grow and bring something important to the world if we were able to step up to it. So I'm a 22/4. So this is why, Suzanne, you kept saying to me before the session, gosh, that's a lot of extra work you're doing. You know, you're meditating and doing these charts and everything before the session begins. Well, I wish I could change that about myself. I wish I was an eight path like you, but the four in me just always sees this system that I've got to really,
see?
bring in this complete way. And it's just how my energy is.
This this is this is like those moments where you go to the doctor and you find out that you really had an infection and you say, "Oh, that's why I've been feeling this way." This gives you the whole, that's why I act this way. That's why I respond this
Right.
way. You know, it
Right. And I've had people tell me, Sue, why do you work so hard? And I've tried in my life to minimize, but I am compelled to work. And I promise you, as long as I have any cognitive ability left in me, I will be compelled to write another book, or I will be compelled to develop another numerology system or something. It never stops. And my
so,
comfort is looking at other 22/4s and how they are, because they're the same way in their own unique path.
so you just did mine just yesterday, so it's fresh. Why am I the exact same way of that though? Because ask Ty, I have to do this. I'm working and writing books and everything. What's
Well, because you bring it to a greater power. Here's the difference between an 8 and a 22/4. Four and eight are related, of course, but in my work, think of it this way. Oprah called herself back in her show days. She would say, everybody would say she's the hardest working woman in America, and she was. She worked
Mhm.
nonstop to bring her content. She's a
Yeah.
22/4. You're an eight path. Think of one of my favorite people is Paul Newman was on the eight path. He was just so powerful that wherever he showed up, doors opened and he was able to bring his gift to the world with such, I would say, power, presence, and ease. That's your path, Suzanne.
Huh.
And the other piece is that an eight path soul ultimately is turning around and making a huge difference, a huge impact in the
Mm.
world, more power than any other path could have. And look at
Yeah.
you, you came from the naval commander background, which was incredibly powerful, to then spirituality. And the reason you've been able to go to such amazing level is because the world respects your authority, your power. That is so eight path. Well done.
Well, I love that again, we can say ascribe it to the numbers because I don't try to be this way. That's just the way
I
it's always
know.
been.
That's the
But
thing. We don't try to be a certain way. We just find ourselves being that way. And
because our
when we,
soul chose it.
yes, exactly.
So are the numbers 1 through 9 equally distributed among the population?
Well, I wish I could do the research to find that out, but I do know in my own work, every time a new client comes in and I get their date of birth, I have these sheets, where I fill out their 9 year, and certain pages I run out of more quickly than others, and so I'll go, wow, there's a lot of five path souls in our world right now. There seems to be an accumulation of that incredible energy. And so you do sort of notice that there's a dominance at certain times that are coming into the world. And I wish I knew exactly how to describe that. But I know that eventually you're going to learn. If you go out and talk to 20 of your friends and get their date of birth, you'll find that you get a pretty even spread of path
Okay.
numbers in there. But I've also found that in your friend circle, you're going to find you have mostly one or two different kinds of path numbers because those are your strongest soul agreements.
Oh my goodness. So you focused on the positive, and maybe every aspect, every character is going to have positive and not so positive
Right.
traits. Are there certain numbers where you go, "Ooh, you took a hard, you chose a hard life because that's."
No, and see, I don't ever believe in that idea that somebody's life is bad or hard or negative. You know, it's just that our soul said, "Oh, that's what I need to learn right now, and that's the gift I want to bring." And maybe it looks very different from other people's lives. You know, I've got people that I grew up with in the South who look at my life because I don't live in the South anymore, and they go, "Oh, she had a very tragic, you know, her husband died in her 20s." And I'm going, "Who are you talking about?" I've had an amazing life. I wouldn't trade a minute of my journey because it brought me exactly where I needed to be. Now, that's not saying that in those moments of grief, I wasn't devastated and
Sure.
lost. Of course I was. That's part of the human journey. But what a gift of awakening, you know, to have your young, beautiful husband die in your arms, and now he's coming to you that night and telling you the beauty of divine order, and you're going, wow, this world is so much bigger than I ever understood it to be.
Wow.
That is the gift.
So I just keep hearing, ask her about three, ask her about three. What would, because it must be very different from the power of four or eight that
It's
we've been
funny
talking
that
about.
you asked that because eight and three are so compatible, and three is half of an eight, and they equal together the number 11, the
Wait,
sacred
I
number
don't get
11.
it. Three is half
Okay.
of an eight. Why?
So when you look at the number eight and you cut it down the middle, there's
Oh, yeah.
three in there.
Okay, okay.
And then when you add the eight and the three, you get the sacred number 11. So in your journey, I'm sure you've had many, maybe even the people who work with you most closely, if you go back and do their numbers, they might be threes, you know, because that energy really vibrates well with you. And three brings this creative thinking, this fun. I mean, three paths just light up the room. They're all about connection, community, creativity, all this stuff. But they also have a call of awakening, as we do. And their call is to get out of their head and into their heart. And threes are very comfortable in their head and their brilliant mind. And so their life will be calling them to get more into their feelings and their emotions. Every path has its call to its own awakening. For example, my 22-4 is the call to get away from the drudgery of just work for work's sake into the higher understanding of work for the sake of making a greater difference in the world.
And you are doing that, and you're right on track. This is awesome. Wow.
But Suzanne, in my 20s, I was a mountain climbing instructor. That's a 4.
Oh.
Hard work for works. And also, I
I,
was a fitness instructor too. And, you know, just let's be strong, you know, and that's all good. That's necessary. But I was called to kind of step it up beyond that.
I heard somewhere, I saw somewhere that you had a near-death experience.
I've had shared death experiences, three of
Okay.
them, very
Oh.
profound. And I've had an out of body experience that was incredibly profound in 2013, I think it was, where I was really sick and I left my body, and the
Mhm.
angels showed me the world from a distance. They were holding me out in space and they were showing me this river of light moving around the earth, filling in all the dark crevices. And they said, "Sue, you have to remember that the light is always winning on earth, even when it doesn't seem that way up close." and you have to teach that. And this was 2013 when, even though our world had problems, it wasn't in as much of a mess as it is today. And so now I realize even more than ever that that message is so important for the world, that no matter how grim things can seem, the light is always winning. It's greater than the darkness. And there's a certain element of us having to trust that, and not look at this world up close and get so upset about whatever we see that really disturbs us.
Yeah. Now you talked about angels. I just received your copy of this beautiful big hardcover book, a trilogy, the Complete Ascension Trilogy, 3 books in one, The Angel's Guide, The Study Companion, and the Journal. Tell us how you became so well versed in angels and what this is going to help us with.
So, growing up Catholic, I loved Mother Mary. That was my person. And when I say growing up Catholic, I mean it was the 50s, and I went to Convent of Mercy all girls school. So
Oh,
we were
wow.
we
Yeah.
were in mass every day. I wore a
Oh my
uniform. I was going to
gosh.
be a nun, Suzanne. That was my goal. I was going to be a nun until I heard Paul McCartney sing and the Beatles. And
Ah,
that changed my trajectory.
so funny.
However, Mother Mary, even in the Catholic tradition, they called Mary the Queen of Angels.
Mm.
So as a child, when everyone else was sort of connecting to whatever the Catholics talk about, I was there with Mary and the angels around her. And that's who was comforting me when I went to bed at night. She was my mother.
Mm.
And so as I grew up and studied different religions and Buddhism and Hinduism and Theosophy, I just wanted to understand it all. The
Yeah.
thing that always stayed with me was this sense of a female divine mother, even though I took many different terms to understand that. And then the angels started showing up back, oh, I guess 2022, somewhere around there, where they were just sort of coming into my life saying, time for you to listen to me or us. And they had
Wow.
shown me that vision in 2013. That it was clear those were angels showing me that vision. And so when they appeared in my bedroom in 2023, and I was able to have a conversation with an angel who said she was my mother in the higher realms, and that I
Wow.
needed to know I had always been loved and protected by her all throughout my childhood, all throughout my life. That was the most comforting message. And then 6 months later, I was diagnosed with cancer and really went through a dark night of the soul. But the
Mm.
angels had told me then that they were with me. And it was like their little pre-warning of something's coming. We're not going to scare you, but we just want you to know we're here with you. And so as I walked through the cancer journey, I felt them, saw them, showing me the purpose of it, guiding me through it, helping me choose the surgeon. Every piece of that miraculous journey was guided by the angels. And so when I finally kind of got back on my feet from it, they were waking me up in the night going, write this down. You have another book to write. And I was like, no, I'm too old. My eyesight is terrible. Don't ask me to do that again. And they would literally wake me up going, here's chapter one.
Oh, I
And so
love
I
it.
finally just started, I actually found the easier way is recording it into my phone and then turning that into a Word doc. So I found this easier way to be able to write it. And within 2 months, those 3 books poured through me. I've never experienced anything like that. I was literally taking notes from the angels. And then I got them published on Amazon. And then they said, well, you're not done. You have to put them all into one volume, so then the trilogy came out, and now I'm going, please tell me I'm done with books.
No,
Books
you're
are
a
so
22
hard.
4.
Yes. Like, I just be done with that part of it,
You're remarried now. Gene is your husband?
Yeah.
I look forward to meeting him.
Actually, you
I
met him in
did meet him. He was
2013.
at the yeah. I
Yes.
met him. I remember now.
Yeah.
Right. But getting to know him because we just met in passing. But
Right.
did he know what he was signing up for?
I know that's always the question, right?
At
Well,
the human level.
right. At the human level, Gene and I met as single parents outside of our children's first and second grade classrooms. And the minute he started speaking to me, I couldn't even think. I knew he was like, and just like you said with Ty, I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I'm supposed to be with this man. But I was a single mom and I had a young daughter. And so I was like, whoa, no, because if this goes badly, I'm not bringing my daughter through that. My primary job was to be her mother. And so Jean and I were great friends for a year. We would take our kids to events together, and he's a beautiful designer, artist, and so
Yeah.
I would bring him to clients that I knew needed his work. And then he would say to me things like, well, tell me again about that numerology thing you were mentioning. And so we would just start exchanging ideas. And he was all in with my spirituality and encouraged me. Like he would say, don't hide that you're an intuitive, be proud of it. And he was like my biggest cheerleader about it. And so he has stood by my side at every step with my work and all everything that I do. And yet he's a seven path, which is much quieter, and he never wants to be like, I'll bring him to events with me, and he just wants to be in the back of the room, quiet, like doesn't want any attention. So that's why people often like don't have any idea who he is or anything.
Yeah.
He's very secretive and.
But fully supportive and into it. That's
Right,
awesome.
right.
Really awesome. Well, I know that a lot of people listening have already gone to your website and looked up their number. And I definitely want to get that book because I'm going to be looking up, even though you talked about Ty in the reading yesterday and Susan, I'm going to be looking that up. But just to show people, you don't need the calculator necessarily for the
Right.
one way, but just show them how to
Yeah.
reduce, like Susan's birthday would have, well, I don't know if you have paper or pen there,
Yeah,
December
I do.
it would have been December 6th, it was December
Mm.
6th, 1978, my
Yeah,
stepdaughter who passed. And you
yeah,
you talked about her yesterday, but I'm just using that as an
yeah.
example. So
So those numbers are 1, 2, 6, 1, 9, 7, 8, and you just add all those together. And I already know that she's a seven path. So what happens is it comes to a double number first. Probably it was the 25. And then you add those two with the double number together and you get the single digit, the seven.
yeah,
And that's when you can really go into, and first you have to left brain logically understand what the seven is. And I use Pythagoras, the Greek philosopher, his method of really understanding the numbers. But then you have to go beyond that logic. It's like any good astrologer, any good numerologist, you go beyond the left brain understanding of it, and you really feel that soul's journey in that number, the vibration of it. That's why I ask everybody for their birth path numbers before it's the day of the session. In fact, I'll cancel clients who don't send me their stuff because I don't want to just be sitting there doing it in the moment. I want to
yeah,
have marinated. Like when you gave me your numbers ahead of time, I was like getting so many downloads and seeing your life and feeling all this amazing stuff, so that by the time we got together, I felt so connected to you. And that's how I work with the numbers. And that's why I ask for it all ahead of time. It's more of an intuitive channel once
this
you.
is I have to interrupt you here because Lynette, my wonderful friend Lynette, once gifted me a session with a psychic in Sedona, and she used tarot cards. First of all, she said, "So are you married?" And I'm thinking, you should know.
Right,
She says, "Right,
right.
you're a psychic," and then and she just put the cards down and absolutely read them at face value. It was not at all intuitive, and this is what I love about yours. You're just like you said, you're marinating in the person's energy, And it's not just about the number.
And Suzanne, honestly, I'm falling in love with your soul. I mean, I know that sounds like a crazy thing to say, but every client that comes to me, the minute I see their numbers, I'm falling in love with their soul journey. I'm seeing everything they've struggled with, the amazing gifts they've brought, because we're all these beautiful souls here just doing the best we can. Even the people we want to call bad players, they are doing the best they can to
Yeah.
express their soul's journey. The numbers just show that so beautifully.
So you're clearly you live and breathe this soul's love, our divine purpose,
Oh, no,
spiritual.
no, no. I have my human self
Of
still
course.
here, let me
Of course.
assure you.
Yeah, but you're living and breathing, and we all have our moments.
Right.
But you are an ordained unity minister. I really know unity well because I've spoken at a lot of unity churches along the way because they are very open and accepting to mediumship and talk about the greater reality. But I do know that this is not just a mail-in, get your license as a unity minister. That used to be a 3-year residential program.
I
This is a
know.
big deal. Tell me what called you to do that.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked me that because I think we all have these reinvention moments where we know we're being called to step up in our spiritual awareness. And I'd been doing numbers and intuition and talking about all the different paths bring us to God, but my soul was going, come on, there's more to it, you know. And so Unity of Boulder has long been a wonderful sacred center, and I'm friends with Cintisha, the minister there, and that whole family. They're such amazing people. And so I found myself when I was struggling with the world a little bit in the, I don't know, a long time ago, I would go and sit there on a Sunday and just really enjoy it. And finally, one day I was sitting in there and they were talking about the main principle of unity, which is that God is a pure source of unconditional love that runs this universe, that runs through all of us. And the minister said, so wherever you go, whatever you do, God is inside of you. And it just kind of hit me in a way that, I mean, I cried, I had chills everywhere. And I went home to Gene and I said, I think I have to go to ministry school. And he's like, what? And so for 4 years, I had to, and it was all online. I was blessed because we didn't have to go move to Unity Village, Missouri, which he would not have liked at all.
Mhm.
So we were able to stay in Colorado, and I could do all my coursework on Zoom classes, but it was very intense. But it rearranged any questions I had. Like we would go back and study the Bible, but begin to study the original Aramaic translations and the original metaphysical meanings of things so that I could put to rest any really anger that I had about how the Bible had been interpreted and used, you know, in a condemning way for people, because that's not at all what Jesus said or who Jesus was. And so I was able to finally understand God in a way that my soul had really longed to understand and embody. So it's been a great blessing. And I'm not made to run a church. You know, I'm not a pulpit minister. I always tell people to run a church, you have to be a really good business manager. You have to be a CEO. I would so fail at that job. So I'm very happy just having my own little spiritual work and speaking occasionally at Unity churches and writing books.
That's beautiful. You definitely walk the talk and embody Unity's principles. I don't ascribe to anyone religion either, but I'm so aligned with Unity's 5 principles. When I read them, I say that's my
That's
belief
it.
system
I
right
agree
there.
with you,
Yeah,
Suzanne. You
yeah.
know, they carry such high frequency, and I love Buddhism, I love Hinduism, I loved many parts of growing up Catholic, but there's a way that Unity puts those 5 principles together that I know are God's, or who God is and what God is.
Mm, beautiful. Well, let's see if we covered what I wanted to ask you about today. I did. What didn't we cover, Sue, that you want to talk about?
I think maybe listeners might enjoy hearing about our universal numbers because they impact all of us. So,
Yeah,
for
and
example,
you're right, because it's right here, angel numbers too. Angel numbers. It was covered up. Thank you.
thank you, angels. So, we can all look at our calendar and say we can add the digits together of the current year. So, for example, 2025, if you add all those numbers together, what do you get? A
9.
9.
Mhm.
And so 9 has these dual meanings of culmination, fulfillment, highest accomplishment, and letting go of the old, surrendering what we know to be true, letting go of the ego's understanding of things, and just letting it all flow away, trusting that something more important and perfect is about to unveil itself, even if we can't understand what it is. That 9 energy requires such trust in the goodness of the world, such trust in divine consciousness.
Hmm.
And look at our world in 2025. Complete fear and chaos and conflict, and everybody feels like it's the end of the world. And the 9 is going, be quiet, everybody. Just surrender your idea of control for a minute and trust that
Mm,
something new and better is coming. And then
mm,
in 2026, we have a one universal year beginning a whole new cycle for us collectively. And
mm,
it's going to be so great, Suzanne. It's going to be totally different, nothing that we can ever see with our logic minds, but it's going to be a new and better phase of our evolution on Earth. And so when we look at these universal cycles like that, and even go back through time and look at them, you can see all the past 9 universal years, how they shook everybody up.
Oh,
And then a
wow.
new cycle would come in and it
Oh,
would be
cool.
better. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's neat. Really, I want to just dive in more and more. So that's going to be fun to watch that. And then, so speaking of angel numbers, oh, I'll get back to angel numbers. I have
Yes.
to go back because I didn't get to ask you at the time when the angels showed up in your bedroom. And yeah, did you see them objectively with your eyes
Oh,
open?
not only that, but this angel imprinted an image on my wall that I can show you sometime. I can't show you right now, but she had a light. I just can't even explain it. She imprinted an image on my wall that I could take a picture of.
Whoa.
I've never experienced anything like it. And I took a picture, and guess who I sent that picture to? Christy, who you know.
Oh, Christy, who's
Yes.
editing this video.
Yes,
Hi,
and I sent
Christy.
that picture and I said, Christy, there's an angel in my room. And Christy's the one who said, ask her who she is. Because
Oh,
I was just in this state, you know?
yeah.
And so I said, who are you? And she said, I am your mother in the heavenly realms. Oh,
Mm,
I get chills when I
mm, mm.
feel that because it's no secret. I've told everyone and I've written about it in my books that I chose a lifetime where I would have a challenging relationship with my mother, my earth mother,
Yeah.
that she wouldn't like me, and just those basic things and I had to leave home early and find my own way. But some people will say, "Oh, what a hard life." And I'm saying, wow, how amazing it was that I was out on my own, figuring it out, having to figure out what my path was at such a young age. But that mother relationship also causes pain because we feel like, wow, I wasn't even worthy of my own mother's love. So how can I be worthy of anybody else's love? And
Yeah.
then the angels come in and the higher beings and they go, we're your family.
Yeah.
We love you unconditionally. And it really begins, if you trust it, to begin to heal whatever wounds we pick up in our childhood.
Beautiful. Yeah, we are definitely not alone. So I
Thank
know
God,
that I'll be
right?
doing readings and I'll be just all of a sudden something says, look at the clock and it's 444 or 222 or 1111. Very common
Yes.
for people. I know that higher consciousness, our loved ones in spirit, they're the ones that say, look at the clock now, and we don't realize we're being guided. So those three numbers in particular, what's up with?
Yeah, so the 11s and the 111, those are all 11 is our call to focus on our divinity
Mm,
and use our sensitivity to download guidance for ourselves and not to look in the outer world for those answers. So you see 1111, it's like, oops, a reminder, I need to focus on the higher beings and the higher messages that are coming through and not be focused on the earth world so much. So that's the gift of the 11. And then the 22 or the 222 comes through, and it means, are you really stepping into your soul's purpose and bringing your highest self and highest work to the world? Use that 22 to help
mm,
shift you into getting it done and being on your path. And then the 33, Suzanne, the 33 is the Christ consciousness path. And by Christ, I don't mean that in a traditional way. Christ means the heart of compassion. And
mm,
so when we see 33, it's a call to step into our compassionate, loving selves on earth, understanding that we are here to channel in unconditional love for each other, no matter how flawed we all are here on earth, because we are, but to bring in that Christ compassion to ourselves and each other. So these are the beautiful little signs that they give us.
wonderful. And 444?
Oh, get to work, girl.
Oh, God.
And I know that in this life, I needed to develop inner and outer strength. And that call of my path, the 22-4, has perfectly served me in that. It's really been a lifetime of having to be on my own a lot, being a single mom, going through grief, leaving home at 17, so many things that called me to find my own strength and to not believe that somebody else was here to save me or support me. And so this 22-4 path has served my growth. And I encourage any of you to look at your path and really say, what has it called me to learn? And am
Mhm.
I embracing that lesson?
Wow. Yeah, it's just this is such a beautiful way to see life when you see the things that don't go well as opportunities. It's so funny. Yesterday we traveled from out west to back to South Carolina, and our luggage was lost, and it was lost overnight, 2 nights. And I said to everybody on my team, I said, yeah, but we didn't have to lug it through the three different airports while we're carrying
Right?
the dogs with us. And we didn't have to load it into the car. We could go straight from the plane and go home, and they delivered it to our door. It was great.
Yes,
And they
that's
said,
great.
Suzanne, only you would see that as a blessing, but but no, you're doing the same thing. You're seeing
Right.
that those are what you just enumerated are far worse than somebody losing their luggage. Real life challenges which we all face. And this is what the
Yes.
inner knowing in your soul and all of us wants us to do is see from that higher perspective.
Yes. And Suzanne, this morning I was teaching, I've been teaching this 33 days of angelic wisdom class, which is just mind-blowing. I'm supposed to be the teacher, but the angels are really
Yeah.
bringing it in. And our theme today was about this exact thing of like, how do we walk through the most horrible pain on earth, even including grief, illness, all these things, and still be able to bring our attention up to that higher frequency of seeing it from the soul. And we were talking about how you're just going to have to forgive yourself when you have days where you can't shift into that perspective, and then, but the minute you can feel a little gratitude, a little joy, all these frequency shifters, and begin to shift up into that higher realm to see it, you have such more happiness and joy that you become addicted to being able to find that place. I remember when I was diagnosed with colon cancer, that's exactly what Paul died from. And he suffered terribly. And I had so many trauma memories of his suffering because I was caring for him for a year. And so when the doctor told me I had colon cancer, boy, I dropped right into my pitiful self. And I was like, ah, I can't go through that. I can't do that. I can't blah, 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 blah. I had this whole human fear story.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the angels went, wait, what are you doing? Do you think we would give you the same exact experience that Paul walked through? There's another purpose to this. look for it. And that just snapped me out of it, like, okay, I'm going to trust. This is a different story for a different reason. And
Wow.
that's how we navigate up and down and finally up.
Wow. That is profound. Oh, everybody, isn't she great? I mean, seriously, just give us not just food for thought, but you can feel it's time for all of us to step up and rise up and see from that higher place. It's totally possible, no matter what you're going through. And I want you to go to her website, check out your number, get the workbook or get a session with her and find out why you signed up for this.
And
What is the
finally,
web?
I want to thank you,
Oh,
Suzanne. I
mm,
want to thank you for the work you do in this very left brain dominated world of logic and cynicism, that you have a voice that changes people's perceptions and opens them up to the beautiful soul's view, the higher reality. Because if I could bring you home to Alabama to meet my family of origin, they would believe you. And maybe then they would believe me. And so the world needs you, and you are doing such important work. Thank you.
well, every one of us is here for a reason. And I love that you've now shown us that we can find out what it is without only going into meditation, that our soul left this chose these numbers. So it's like a map back
Yes, it
home.
is like a map.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. So your website is
SueFrederick.com.
easy enough. All right, everybody, check it out. Check out her books, and you do courses. And I'm just excited that I'm going to get to see you in person fairly soon.
I know, it's so wonderful. And thank you so much for this opportunity. It's just been such an amazing experience, really getting to connect with you. Thank
Yes,
you so much.
indeed. Okay, everybody, check out Sue's work. Meanwhile, check out what your number is and find relief and purpose. I'm just so excited for all of you. So thank you for joining us for this session, and we'll see you back here again next week. Have a great one.